myself. Once I knew the truth, I couldn't unknow it. I couldn't forget about it. So I just took my Shahada and I became Muslim. It was 5 years ago and I never looked back. I'm a revert. I am not a born Muslim. So if you watched my how I reverted to Islam video, then you probably know that for me, coming to Islam was a bit of a journey. I'm coming from the place literally where there were no Muslims there. I've never met any Muslim until I was 20 years old. So for the first 2 decades of my life, I have never been exposed to Islam in any other way than through social media, which of course is a very, very negative view of Islam. Just to understand why Islam, the way I imagine it, envisioned it through the media, is so different from the people that I'm meeting, the actual Muslim people. You know, the sisters and brothers, they are just so nice, so humble, so kind, very down to earth, very, very peaceful, and very God-loving and fearing people. And I just couldn't understand, I couldn't link the two together. So I started doing the research, and my research probably took about 4 months. And the reason why I even started it is not to sort of see the true Islam, but almost to prove the people that I know that they are wrong. Because I felt like I'm right. Because obviously for 20 years I was exposed to a certain image of Islam. And at that time I had this idea in my mind, like, there is no way media can be wrong, right? Like, at some point when I was about 14, 15, I was even thinking to study journalism for quite a long time of my teenage years. So just that idea that media could be that wrong was quite unimaginable for me at that point in life. I found myself breaking through every single misconception that I've built through those 20 years of my life. So it took me maybe about 4 months of studying. So when I say studying, I really mean that I wanted to be fair. I didn't want to see why Western society thinks Muslims do that, but I really wanted to understand why Muslims think they do certain things. So I really had to watch some scholars, read some articles, definitely read the Quran as well. I remember it took me about 4 months until I was like, wow, like it just blew my mind. I remember it was almost like a light bulb moment, that realization that there is God. So for me, you know, coming from the point of atheism and then 4 months really just breaking through my own head and breaking through all the misconceptions and coming to the point of peace and stillness and complete realization that there is God. It's also important to tell you guys that as a child, I was a Christian and I actually believed in God. In order really for me to unlink myself from Christianity, I had to prior study it and actually truly understand, because I'm the type of person, like, if I don't understand something, I'll go all in, up with all my energy, and I will try to study and figure out what's happening there. So that's what I've done, and through my studies of Christianity, I dissociate myself with it, but I still believed in God. Therefore, I started studying older monotheistic religion and Christianity, which is Judaism. I never met any Jew in my life, and I still, as a teenage girl at that age, maybe 16, 17, I started looking into Judaism, because I was like, look, if I believe in God, which I truly did at that time, and I am, you know, I believe in one God, then I must be either Jew or a Christian, right? At that stage, that's how I thought. And then I looked into Judaism, and again, there were a lot of concepts that I just didn't agree with, because it felt to me like culture came to play a big role in the way that we practice Judaism today. So I think around that time, being around 17, 18, I lost all faith. You know, I lost my faith in God. I lost even interest of learning anything further, and I became a complete atheist. So now coming back to when I was around 20 years old, meeting Muslims and studying about Islam, I remember what I loved the most about reading the Quran and sort of learning through the eyes of Muslims is that they always point to the very original source, the 1,400 years old book, as well as the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, and just that passion of following our Prophet as closely as possible. Doesn't matter that was 1,400 years ago, doesn't matter that was in the middle of the desert, doesn't matter that it doesn't have much of a link to our society the way it's right now with all the digital world. They still try so hard to link every action that they do to the original message of the Prophet and the original message of the Quran. There is only one God. Allah is not a separate, some mystical God. A simple word in Arabic which means God. So for me, whether I say God or I say Allah, it actually doesn't matter, because I mean the same thing in two different languages. And that's the same God who gave Torah to the Jews, who gave Bible to the Christians, and who gave Quran to the Muslims. That as Muslims, we believe in all of the books. 5, then iPhone 6, and this is iPhone 7. It's just an upgraded version of the same path. I totally love Islam, and I fell in love with Islam. It wasn't a religion, it was a way of life. The word Muslim itself means believer in one God, follower of one God. And Islam as a word in Arabic means peace. So for me, Islam is just this peaceful way of life. I was saying that Islam is not really a choice for me, is because I remember after 4 months of studying Islam and Quran and kind of getting all my misconceptions just shattered in my head, and seeing really just the beauty of Islam and the beauty of the Quran, I remember just sitting on a bed knowing for damn sure there's God, and knowing that as someone who believes in one God, I also believed in the Quran, and I also believed in all the prophets, including Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I knew that I can't, if you need to label me, I can't be labeled as anything else but a Muslim. So the only really thing for me to do was to take my shahada in order for me to be able to really live to my potential, to live to my authentic self. I couldn't, it's almost like I couldn't lie to myself. Once I knew the truth, I couldn't unknow it. I couldn't forget about it. So I just took my shahada and I became Muslim. It was 5 years ago and I never looked back.